Okay, now supposing we have a problem like this. Solve the equation. So that's kind of a crazy messed up equation. We're used to solving things with x in the numerators and by themselves. We're not used to solving things with x in the denominators. So we're going to have to use a few new skills, or at least new applications of old skills. But before we do anything, we need to decide which places, what x's we're not even allowed to consider, because there will be things that aren't even up for grabs. In particular, any x that caused me to divide by 0 at any stage is forbidden, like we said. So if x equals 0 by that one, or if 5x equals 0 by that one, then we'll be dividing by 0, in which case, catastrophe. So x equals 0, that's done enough, and if we divide both sides by 5 here, we get x equals 0 again. So no matter what happens, if we get x equals 0, then we're going to be wrong. So first thing you do, check that. Next thing you do is find a least common denominator. So again, this is the same method we talked about before. We could go ahead and do x times 5x times 5, which would be 25x squared, multiply everything by that, blah, blah, blah. That works, but is overkill. Instead, we want to find a thing that x goes into, 5x goes into, and 5 goes into. And an LCD would be 5x. That satisfies the property, right? Because x is definitely in there, 5x is definitely in there, and 5 is right there. So now if I multiply both sides of the equation by 5x, which you do to one side, you have to do to the other. That's not a new rule. And then distribute, that's also not a new rule. We'll see something neat happen. So 5x, we'll just rewrite it over here where we can see it. 5x times 5 over x, that's the first one. The next one would be plus 5x times 8 over 5x. The third one would be 5x times 1 over 5, and that's going to be equal to 2 times 5x is 10x. Oh, no room, sorry. Next thing I'm going to do is multiplying these whole numbers by fractions. Drives me nuts. So just stick everything over 1 if you want. You really don't have to if it makes sense without it. And now you'll see, oh, I'm just multiplying these things. We've had tons of practice doing that. If a thing, they're all multiplied, so if a thing shows up in the top and the bottom, they cancel. Like those x's, or those 5s, and those x's, or those 5s. A bunch of canceling happen. And what does that leave me with? That leaves me with a 25 over 1 plus a 8 over 1 minus a x over 1, and that has to be equal to 10x. And of course we don't usually write the over 1s, that's overkill. So let's just go ahead and say that they are not there, which we can get rid of them. If you want to write them you can, but it's pretty well, I think it's more distracting than anything at this point. Cool. And so now 25 plus 8 is, well, that's what, 33? Hope I did that right, otherwise it's going to be embarrassing. Minus x equals 10x. If I add x to both sides, it's going to be 33 equals 11x. Divide both sides by 11. 11's cancel, giving me 3 equals x, or x equals 3. Now I need to check to make sure this answer wasn't one of our forbidden ones, and of course it's not. The only forbidden was 0. These are forbidden. And seeing how it's not, it works, 3 works, we can go ahead and pop that right into here. Oops. Oh, okay. It took the dot. All right. Had our answer been the forbidden one, then we would have done B. No solution. So always check for your forbiddens. It's necessary.